Today on the Basketball Manitoba podcast, we have Chad Posthumus. Chad is a professional basketball player who is a graduate of River East Collegiate, where he was recognized as an All-Manitoban, as well as one of the top 5 high school players in Canada. He represented the Manitoba Provincial Team 3 times. After high school, he was recruited to play at the University of British Columbia, and then transferred to Howard Community College, and finally Morehead State in Kentucky. There, he was 4th in the NCAA in rebounds and was named All-Ohio Valley Conference 3rd team. He started his professional career in the NBA Summer League with the Chicago Bulls. Since then, he's played professionally in Japan, Argentina, China, the United States in the G League, and Canada in both the NBL and the CEBL. He's represented the Canadian national team most recently at the FIBA AmeriCup 2022. Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Anytime you get to chop it up, basketball,
it's a good day, right?
It's a good day, man. It's a good day. We're here. I see the Canada basketball. Look, you know what's actually funny? I'm actually wearing the same shirt. So
man,
we're out here. We're representing. I know it's the Basketball Manitoba podcast, but hey, Manitoba is part of the basketball Canada community. So yeah, it's a good day. Man, I wanted to kind of jump right into this. I asked you offline. You actually mentioned, I was like, hey, are you doing any more national team stuff? And you had mentioned, my hips bothering me a little bit. So I wanted to kind of ask you about your hip. I was going to ask you, how's it doing? You had said you kind of re-injured it a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about that hip injury? What was it, man? Was it really bad? I know you didn't have a hip replacement, but what was the injury?
Yeah, so it first happened when I was playing in the NBL Canada. I think it was 2016, beginning of the year, and just had an injury. Didn't think it was anything too crazy, just misdiagnosed, but it was just something that just kept nagging at me, coming back. Just not anything that was so severe that I couldn't play, but it got to the point where I was like, something's wrong here. And just diagnosed as a strain, hip flexor strain a couple times. And then, finally got an MRI on it. And it ended up being, they're like, yeah, you have a torn labrum. And I'm like, how do you get a torn labrum in basketball? And they're like, must have did it at some point in time. I could pinpoint a couple times, but I don't know the exact time that I had what happened. But basically said, you have a torn labrum, you got to get surgery to repair this. And I was like, well, it doesn't bother me that much. They're like, well, it doesn't bother you that much. You can still play on it, which I was like, at the time, I'm like, okay, I'm playing pro ball. I want to make money. I don't want to sit out. And I have all these options ahead of me. So it got to the point where I was with the Oklahoma City Thunder and training with their regular team during the summer, and then going to play on their G League team in the fall. And basically I just kept playing through it, kept bothering me, working with the trainers there. And they're like, man, you got to do something about this. They're like, we can't work or play. You can't really play if you're not going to be able to do something about this. So it got to that point in time that they recommended I get surgery. So got that done, and ended up getting it done in January 2018, almost 2 years after the initial injury. Had to go through all that surgery, 6-7 month recovery, and then unfortunately I actually had to get it done again.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It was just like you re-injured it, or what was the?
No, so it didn't heal right. So torn labrum, your labrum's basically your hip lining. It stops the impact when you move your joint. Like your femur's like this. This is your joint. Mm-hmm. It's the cartilage rim around there, so it makes it move smooth and feel really good, right? So basically mine had a tear, which was bone on bone. So anytime I moved in a certain angle, it would get impinged, and I would feel like a little sharp, dull pain, but. It wasn't anything, like I said, that was keeping me away from basketball, but it was something that was just it was always there. Mm-hmm. When it healed the initial time after the surgery, the labrum didn't heal straight together. It healed with a bit of a flap. So there was a part that was still catching when I had those movements in my joint there. They had to redo that. Second time, unfortunately, it went really well. Here we are today. Got a little. When we were talking a bit offline, it's a little aggravated after playing in 5 months, but it's nothing too crazy. Taking a bit of time off, and I think honestly the last month I've taken off has done wonders for me, as it would anybody who plays any professional sport, taking a month off
For
is
sure.
great, right? So
Wearing the tear
yeah.
on the body is tough, man. And so how long like total were you impacted by that? Like from the first surgery, second surgery, and then you came back when you came back?
Yeah, so like 2016 when it initially happened, and then I finished off that season in the NBL Canada. Then I played a full season in Japan. Then we finished that in May. That was May 2017. Finished that season. Then signed with their Oklahoma City, brought me out for a couple workouts. The Thunder did really well at those, so they brought me in for summer training. All through that until that was in when I was at the G League team was in, I guess, end of October, beginning of November when that started up, that I ended up leaving the team, not playing games with them, not finishing the training camp, and going to get the surgery. And that was January 2018. And then the next one was August 2018. So I guess you could say by the time I was fully healed and playing again was January 2019. So yeah,
Wow.
3 years, 3 years. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot, man. That's a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
We're here now, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're here now. It's all we really got, man. You got through that. You're here now. You're playing. I mean, I mentioned in the intro there, you played in the America Cup there. I was actually talking offline that I saw you, like you literally ran right by me. We were in Victoria at the same time, and I was like, hey, and then we didn't get to talk, but you got to go do that, which was really cool. But it's interesting. The reason why I bring that up is because I was actually reading an article about you doing the research. And in that article, it talked about many, many things, but it was a Canada basketball article. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about. And I didn't know that you had type 1 diabetes. I didn't know that.
Really?
I didn't know that. And I know some people who, take insulin and stuff like that. And, but I don't know anyone that has type 1 diabetes. Right. And so I guess, this is kind of a big, wide ranging question. It kind of gets us right into the some of your history, but what was it like, and what is it like, I should say, dealing with that? Because you already professional athletes already have all these obstacles. You're traveling, you're doing all this stuff, you're preparing, blah, 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 all that stuff. You've been dealing with this probably for most of your, all of your life for the most part. But what types of challenges, like we talked about your hip injury. So now we talk about this, not injury, but it's a challenge. What type of challenges do you have to do compared to the normal athlete day to day? Because I would imagine you have to check your blood sugar, or insulin, all these things.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess I've had it since I was 7 years old. So I grew up with it, it's a little different than some people say you get it later on in life, type 1 diabetes. I grew up with it, right? So it's been a part of my life since I was 7. So the last 24 years now, right? Having that growing up, I think gave me that edge over somebody who would have got it later on. And sports has always been a part of my life since growing up. I played hockey at the age of 4 till I was 16, played AA, AAA, all of that. So sports has always been there, and being a type 1 diabetic's always been there, right? Mm-hmm. I guess some of the challenges, I remember even playing hockey, AA Marauders back in the day, when I was first diagnosed, had always had Gatorade. And then when we would go in for the third period time to when the Zamboni came across the ice, come in, test my levels, drink some Gatorade, and be off, right?
Yeah.
It's evolved since then. Now we have these glucose
that's
monitors, right?
24-hour, just always, right?
Yeah,
you
so
pull it out
it
and
goes
see.
right to your phone. It your levels go right to your phone. You can check it as much whenever you want. You don't gotta finger prick. It takes half a second, which is nice. I guess the only problem with basketball and sweating so much, I mean, even in the America Cup down in Brazil when we were there, these come off all the time, and they're like $100 a sensor, right? So it's okay, let's put that one on, and then
do you put a sleeve over it?
Practice. Yeah, I put a sleeve over.
Yeah,
it,
I was
but it
gonna
helps
say,
to some extent.
Yeah.
I actually went back to the old-fashioned way when I was down in Brazil, just because it's so hot down there, and like I said, you can only carry so many of them around before you're like, man, I'm just throwing away money at this point.
Yeah. $100.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing, man. You have to kind of take that into consideration. I guess I'm kind of curious. It's so when you're young, you're saying hey, you're checking it.
Yeah.
But that has a direct there's a direct link to. I mean, again, if people don't know kind of how diabetes works and whatever, it's all connected to blood sugar and insulin and all this stuff. But
yeah.
That's going to have an effect on your actual how you feel physically.
Performance, yeah, how you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
your levels are low, like you need to have some food. I need to drink some Gatorade, have some snacks, raise those levels up, or else you literally will pass out and have a seizure, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you got to think you're in the middle of a basketball game, high performance. Like you got to be
Yeah.
focused, thinking about this. It's like, yeah, it's like in my mind, I'm just like, okay, quick, do this real quick. Okay, I need this. Okay, done. Back to the court, back to the board.
Yeah.
And the nice part about playing professionally is, and the NCAA, you get those TV timeouts too, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you get an extra couple timeouts each quarter for media timeouts and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or one extra timeout each quarter, I should say. Sorry. Which is nice, and that's helped out, and especially being at a higher level, having that little extra couple minutes here and there is when I usually take care of things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just from a performance perspective, if it's too elevated, you're going to be groggy. You're going to basically the way I basically describe it is, I know it's a little inaccurate, but it's like high blood sugar level, extra sugar in your blood. It's like, imagine your blood syrup, right? It's like everything's it's moving a little slower.
Yeah.
It's not really correlated like that.
But yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But it's like that's the best way to describe it. Is
so you feel almost. It's like you're like.
Is exactly.
So then, have you had any moments where like you were playing and then you're like, oh crap, like you realize you're like, this is not good, and you have to like
not
check out?
Usually during games. Like sometimes I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, I mean, you've played against me, like, Chad, your head's in the clouds, right?
Yeah.
Man, oops, gotta take care of this real quick. But for the most part, I'll have my levels. I'll keep them a little elevated before I start. So as with activity, it's the same as taking a needle right here, right in front of me. There we go. It's the same as taking your insulin. It slowly lowers your levels.
Yeah.
So when you have that happening throughout the course of a game, you're bringing it back down to around normal. Drink some Gatorade, have halftime, have your snacks, and you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
It's I mean, there's a lot more to it, but it's
of course
it is what it is, right? Yeah.
Like, I mean, you've lived with it forever, so for you, you're like, what is? But like, I just kind of wanted to bring that up. Like, I know a little bit about both type 1 and type 2, and like, glucose and all that. So it was a little bit of curiosity for me, but then also I don't think a lot of people knew that. Like, I mean, again, obviously, probably your closer people in your circle or people you've played with know that, but man, I've known you forever, and I did not know that, right? And so I thought, it'd be cool. You're obviously open to share it, so it's like, hey, because you never know. The other thing is like, you don't know who's listening, who else is out there, who else might be like, yo, I deal with this or whatever, man. It's always good if you can kind of be a, role model a little bit in more than just like, hey, he plays basketball and he's really big and he plays high level. It's like, oh yeah, but he also deals with these struggles, and I think a lot of people don't. We all have our own personal struggles. This one's very unique, I would say.
But then that goes to just saying like that. It's like, how much does it really affect me if we've played against each other how many times over the years?
Exactly.
I have no idea, right?
Exactly.
That's how like you can take care of it as a type 1 diabetic. It's not something that holds you back. You can play with diabetes, and it's like you just said, you had no idea, right?
No idea.
Never would have had any idea until you read the article.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe there's some parent like, oh, I don't want my kid to play this sport. Like they're overprotective and like, well,
who knows?
Chad's been doing it forever. Like it's not an issue, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like, last thing I'll ask about this, I want to kind of get into more basketball stuff, but do you travel, like you have to travel with all your insulin, obviously, right? Like, so you're bringing all that with you, or?
Yeah, for the most part. Like I remember when I went overseas and played in Japan for 9 months, right? Like I'm bringing a whole year's supply of stuff with me, or half a year's supply anyway. And then friend, relative comes and visits me, they can bring some more.
Bring some more.
Yeah, because you never know. Each country treats things differently, and they have different courses of action for different ailments, right? So it's always nice to just do what and be able to replicate that on a daily basis. So.
Was that pen? Was your insulin? Was that an insulin?
Yeah, that's a short acting one. So anytime I have carbohydrates or eat any food,
boom. Yeah,
quick one. So I did a little differently. Some people have the pump, or some people do long acting and a little, or like semi long acting here and there. So I like to like fine tune it, because I never know when I'm going to be getting a workout in. Play how long a game is going to go, how long a practice might go. So basically anytime I eat, I take a needle. So if I eat 10 times a day, I'm taking 10 needles, right? It's a lot more than your average person, but it's a lot more fine-tuned to be able to do it exactly as I need to, and as I see fit for what I'm doing that given day.
For sure.
having a schedule that changes so much, like you mentioned with sports, it's all over the place.
Exactly. No, that's interesting. Yeah, it totally makes sense though. Okay, enough about
no worries.
enough about that. But interestingly enough, first thing I want to ask you about with regards to basketball is kind of going back to the start, right? It's like, you obviously mentioned you played hockey. I think when you said you've had this since you were 7 and you've been playing hockey.
Yeah.
When did you first start playing basketball? Who, where, when, who introduced you? All that good stuff. What are some of your first memories?
I think I was 10 years old, and then I played in the WNBA. My father, Charles Posthumus, actually
shout out
helped
Charlie.
He did found the teams here in East St. Paul and the East St. Paul basketball program. He started that up, got all the teams going, incorporated into the WNBA, playing with all of them. So that would have been about 9 or 10 years old, playing in the WNBA. And he coached me, and then he coached for a year, and then another coach I ended up playing with. I guess not enough numbers, who knows. I ended up playing with the Gateway team for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I would have been playing around 9, 10, 11 with WNBA, and then I guess it was from there went to playing district. There's like district, north, south, east, west. I know you remember that. There was the pseudo all-star, like equivalent of the AA for hockey there.
Exactly.
So played district. It was really good experience, high level for that point in time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically my first experience in basketball.
Yeah. But so then, like, you said you were about 8, you said, sorry, 10?
9. I think 9 was 10. 9 was my first year.
So the question is like, how if anyone doesn't know, Chad's very tall and very large. Just FYI for people like, who's this Chad guy? Like, just in case you didn't know, Chad's very big. Most people know you're very big. But in any case, I had to say that because my next question is, how big were you when you were about 9, 10? Were you taller than everyone, or were you still kind of just the same height as everyone else?
I was definitely taller than I had a crazy, like, just way above the curve growing my whole life.
So you've always just been way bigger than everyone. Like, there was never a point where you're like, I'm kind of the same size as everyone else.
Yeah, I think when I was like grade 5, what would that have been? Or grade 4, grade 5, I think, when I started. It was right around there. I think it was like 5'10" in grade 5.
Wow. Wow.
And by the end of grade 6, I think I was 6 feet tall.
Wow.
By the end of grade 7, I was 6'1". End of grade 8, End of grade 8, 6'4". Yeah. End of grade 9, I was 6'7". So
wow. And what do you listed at now? Like 6'10", 6'11"?
Like bare feet, I'm at 6'10".
Okay.
6'10" and a bit. And then everybody, they always put your height measurement in shoes. I'm 6'11". Yeah,
you're a very large man. Yeah, I know this doesn't need to be said, but it's so funny whenever, like, I mean, you're in the basketball world, I'm in the basketball world, but when you're with normal people, I'm considered tall. I'm 6'4". And I have to tell people all the time, I'm like, I forget that I'm tall compared to normal people. But then it's like, when I'm around you, this is how other normal people feel around me. Like, when I'm with you, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I look to other people.
Yeah, like,
so whenever,
same thing. Like, to me,
everyone's short.
6'6" and 6, like, playing in, like, my teammates. If you're like 6'6" or 6'7", that's short to me, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's crazy. So, like, for you, it's like you have a unique perspective on the world. Even more so than the average person, because to a tall person, I'm tall, I'm short to you. So it's like,
it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say unique perspective. I remember when I was playing in Japan, playing in Tokyo, and then they have what's called Shibuya Crossing. It's the largest crossing in the world, street crossing. And like, in a 2-minute period, I think it's 20 or 40,000 people cross the street in a 2-minute period. And then I'm remembering it's raining one day and I'm crossing it because we had played in Shibuya, like downtown Tokyo. And I'm like, everybody has their umbrella. Everybody in Japan has an umbrella. So it's raining. And like, I'm just like standing, looking over just a sea of umbrellas. I just can't see anything but umbrella. I'm just like, where am I going here? And there's just all umbrellas that are like right at my like top of my head. I'm just like looking over them and just weaving my
Uh,
way through here. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
that is a very. I've been to the Shibuya crossing, and and
It's
again,
crazy.
I know exactly what you're saying, but I don't because you have a unique perspective. Because even for me, I'm like those things are like hitting me. Or I'm like dodging them because I'm like down there. You're
Oh
like
man, yeah.
they're like down here. So that's wild, man. But so okay, so you got started playing community club, right? Shout out to your pops. Actually, your dad came up on Emmanuel Acot's podcast because he said that your dad essentially said, "Come play basketball." He was the guy
Yeah.
who he was the guy who said, "No, come play." So that was pretty cool. And obviously, I worked for the WNBA, and like I've obviously spent many a time talking to your father and working with him, build teams. I mean, your dad's again a legend in his own right for sure. So shout out to him. But you had mentioned he coached you.
Yep.
So I'm gonna assume he's one of your mentors.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
who are some of your mentors? Obviously, he's one. Can you speak to some of some of those, people who just kind of helped you along the way and kind of, bring you to the person you are today through basketball and even outside of basketball?
Yeah, I guess my father and then my high school coach, Rod Uzat in grade 10, 11, 12, he instilled a Bobby Knight mentality into us from from the get-go in every practice. And that was something that kind of just changed the culture and the perspective I had on basketball going from growing up till I was 15 years old. And it's everybody's like, oh, you're playing for fun. Oh, you're good. You're having
Yeah.
this. And then you get to having a coach like that, and he brings along a whole different side of basketball. Like, yeah, you're good, but there's a lot of other good players out there.
Yeah.
There's more to this than what you have been doing. And having been mentored and trained and coached by some of these elite NCAA coaches and people from down south, where he went to university and where he grew up, for a little bit, that brought a whole different perspective for me. Yeah, and then Rod used that along with my father, and then Kirby Shep. We had a really good summer together in the provincial team program. My couple years there, and then my last year, especially with him coaching. We bonded, had a great time together. I did really well. He took me under his wing as I guess, I don't know, one of his prospect. I don't know, one of his guys, and we did really well. We finished I think it was fourth or fifth there that year, which is, it's always tough when you're in a pool with Quebec on one side and Ontario on another, and then you get put into that third, fourth place, fifth place game right away. I know we've been a lot better in recent years, but just overall with the community and everything coming up. But yeah, it was tough back then.
No
But
doubt,
having Kirby Shep, having Rod Uzat, having my dad, it was the three of those guys, I guess, could be. I mean, there's others can't remember off the top of my head. And if I forget, my apologies. But obviously, my mom in there too, bringing me to all my practices, everything. But yeah, but those three guys were instrumental in just different perspectives, bringing me up, and helped me become the player who I was then, developing me there to bring me to where I am now, right? And then Kirby, shout out to him too, always lets me get in the gym with his guys, beat up on the U of M guys here and there at the seven. So that's always fun, always a good time, always keeps me in shape. So yeah.
For sure. No, absolutely, man. That's good. Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned with Rod or whatever, like that Bobby Knight style. Like I've seen him coach a few times. And I know some people who obviously have had him as a coach, and they say the same thing. Like
you love him or you hate him.
He's stern. Yeah, exactly. He's very stern. But the one thing the only reason I bring him up, and you know what I'm going to say, come on, he is always dressed to impress.
Oh, he is always
suited and booted. Like I've seen him wear like
all
pink
custom
suits and stuff.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone who's so consistent on that front. Like I remember one time, I swear he was doing like a community game, or I don't know what it was. It didn't matter. He was still suited, like looking like that. Yeah. And I was like,
10-year-olds, 12-year, doesn't matter. He's there. He is who he is, and he's gonna bring his coaching style, and his like you said, his steez to everything. He's always looking phenomenal.
Always like
ties, the custom cuffs.
Always, I was blown away. I was like, first time, you see someone, hey, they're in a suit, cool. But then it's like every time. And I was like, what the heck? I started asking people like, oh no, he's always like that. That's his thing. Right. And I was like, hey, respect, man. Like I said, it's all custom. He looks good. Right. So
he looks,
anyway.
always looking good, always looking fresh. I remember once we were playing in the Western Classic actually, and him wearing his beautiful suit, and you play one game and then you got to play another game later on. And I remember his son was there, Cole. Sorry, Cole, if you listen to this, but he's I guess Cole and my brother were watching our games in high school, and I guess they had eaten some bad hot dogs. So Cole runs over to Rod just before the game start, and projectile vomits all over his beautiful suit, his white shirt, everything. So he had to remove the jacket, and ended up coaching us later on just with
Sure. Oh wow, he must have been so fierce about that. He's like, come on, man, gotta take this to the dry cleaners.
At the same time, your kid's sick and you feel bad. He's like, I'm in a televised locally game coming up. It's like, oh man, I'm trying to look good.
That's too good. That would happen to him too, because he has the suit. You will.
The suit,
exactly. If he was wearing
the person in the hoodie, anything? No,
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, man. All right, so obviously, like, we mentioned earlier on, you had like I would say a dominant high school career. I mean, again, if you haven't seen Chad play, he's very large, but you're not like a slow, large person. I think there's been a lot of like people who are very slow. Like, you're very athletic, right? Like, you run the floor. You could,
I appreciate it. No.
You're a beast, right? There's a reason why you're playing at the levels you're playing at. But so you finish up at River East, and you obviously ended up graduating from Morehead State. But as we mentioned in the intro there, you kind of took some stops along the way. So maybe tell us a little bit about, like, you're finishing River East, what was going on in your mind? You ended up at UBC, and then you transferred, which is a very rare thing because you don't see as many people go. Usually it's the other way around, right? People end up going to the States and then they come back. Very rarely is it like they test out Canada and they're like, nah, I'm out of here. So like, tell us a little bit about that, because I know there's a story behind it.
Yeah, so I had, coming out of high school, I think 30 different university offers throughout Canada, a couple Division I offers. The biggest one at the time probably would have been Reno, Nevada. So the Wolfpack. So they play in I think Western Athletic Conference against UNLV. Those teams.
Yeah.
But I had I had 3 or 4 other Division I offers as well. But I don't know. Just my parents and I decided that it would probably be best for me to play in Canada, be local. Mm-hmm. See where I go from there, get a good old-fashioned Canadian university degree where you're not just, as my mom put it, a piece of meat down there that they're using for basketball, and you're getting a basket weaving 101 degree. But yeah, so we came to the conclusion, and at the time it was UBC and Carleton were the 2 best universities in Canada, essentially. Never had an offer from Carleton. I didn't have many offers from out east, actually. There were a few, but most of my offers were teams out west. And it was, for some reason in my mind, like, I know I never decided on staying home in Manitoba. I kind of wanted to go out and explore. I know Kirby got the job in Manitoba that same year as I was going. He spoke to me, offered me a scholarship. But I decided on going out of the province, kind of just grow, establish myself, learn some new things, right? And UBC, just met Kevin Hansen there on my visit there. And Kevin him and I had been chatting tons throughout the year. He came out here to Winnipeg to visit me. And he was great. He was an awesome guy, awesome program at UBC that he still runs to this day. And yeah, I just fell in love with Vancouver, fell in love with the campus, the school, the gym, the whole thing he has going on there. Yeah, it's beautiful, right? Yeah. And then so he got me out there, and I went on my visit, and after that visit, I was like, yeah, I'm signed, I'm sealed. I love this. Yeah. And that was the university that was at the top of my radar the entire recruitment process. And yeah, it was great, loved it. We lost in my first year. We had an excellent year. I didn't play a ton as a freshman coming out. It was a little different experience than I expected. It is a big jump from high school to university basketball. It's a huge jump. And especially as a freshman who's no longer living at home in Manitoba, I had a lot of struggles. Yeah, not just with the transition to basketball, but the transition to school too. It's like teachers aren't helping you. You got to do everything for yourself. And UBC is not a school that you can slack on at all. It's one of the top 20 universities in the world, and for good reason, right? So it was a big transition overall, and I had some struggles with that. What was it? Ended up thinking it was like 3 or 4 points average. I'm not sure the exact numbers. I'm sure you have them. You can look them up if you don't know, but it wasn't the almost 40 points I was averaging in high school. It was a lot less than that. For the amount I played, it was okay, but I should have been higher at an elevated level. But it was, like I said, it was a tough transition. So then, the next year Kevin and I decided that, hey, it might be better if I redshirt actually. So get some growth off the basketball court and on the basketball court, gain some maturity, just kind of evolve my game, evolve my whole persona, everything. So took that second year off, redshirted with the team. And just grew as a person, grew my game, grew kind of all over the place. And it was to the point where I was doing, by the end of the year, really well in basketball. And the team did really well again that year. They won, what was it? We won Canada West. So we won our whole division. We made it to the national final again, lost again. Unfortunately to Carleton the year before. We lose to the Saskatchewan Huskies, which hadn't won a national title ever. Shout out to Coach Greg Jockums, who coached me coached me in the CEBL in my first year when we won a national title there with the Saskatchewan Rattlers. But lost those 2 years in a row. But by the end of my second year, I had developed a ton, and I was actually doing just random workouts around Vancouver, just playing pickup ball here and there, and ended up playing some basketball with Philip Scrub, who was at the time was being recruited by every university ever, right? Because he's one of the scrubs. Tommy and Philip, they're Canadian legends in basketball at this point in time. Tommy's my age, Philip's a year younger, but so he was being recruited by everybody, and some of the universities that were there recruiting him out of high school were like, who are you? Like we're talking like Washington State, bunch of big name schools, Big Ten schools, everybody. They're like, who are you? Where are you playing? Where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm just redshirting at UBC. And they're like, why are you redshirting at UBC? They're like, we'll bring you up for a visit. Like, they're like, what are you doing here, man? And I'm like, well, I don't know. This is where I play. I should say redshirt. I had a bunch of these schools that were just like talking to me, took my information down, and were keeping it like readily in touch with me. And I was like, well, okay, let me see what I can do here. So I had the conversation with Kevin that I wanted to not come back to UBC the next year, which was a tough conversation because, like I said, Kevin Hansen was awesome. His program's awesome. He's Vancouver's awesome. The people there are awesome. He took excellent care of me. Don't have a bad thing to say about him. Besides not playing me anymore in the first year. No, it was great. So it was a tough conversation, but I knew that in order for me to develop as a player, move on as a player, and grow as a basketball player, that I needed to make that step and move on, where I'm not going to be playing against 6'5" centers that are running around in Canada West, and I'm going to be playing against guys my height, guys my size, and doing the things that I can do at the highest level that I'm able to do them at. And so that was the route, right? Unfortunately, because I didn't declare that I was transferring, I guess, in time or anything like that, I wasn't able to play in Division 1 the next year.
Okay.
just with some eligibility rules. Just something
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
work out because
Yeah.
I was talking, like I said, I was talking with Washington and Washington State, and they were looking to bring me out for a visit. But I was ineligible to play, and they didn't want to redshirt me and
Yeah.
then play me again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I actually found a couple schools that were willing to do that, but at the same point in time, I was like, I don't want to be a guy that's in school for 6 years. I
Yeah.
played a year. I just redshirted. I don't want to redshirt another year. I want to play, right?
Mhm.
So had, like I said, a bunch of really high offers, but I turned them down or wasn't able to take those. So I ended up having to play the junior college route because I was
Mhm.
like, I either sit out another year and, like I said, I'm in school for 6 or 7 years, or
Yeah.
I play some basketball. So went to the junior college route, went to Howard College in Texas. Coach Mark Adams there, who's now the head coach of Texas Tech.
Okay.
He
Nice.
was, yeah,
Nice.
he's same Bobby Knight, insane mentality. I remember the 2 3 hour long film sessions we'd have with him. And if you fall
Are you
asleep,
serious?
yeah, if you fall asleep, you were getting a pen cap at the top of your head. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. I think some of the like we would watch some plays, and I still have some of them ingrained in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, I know I should have hedged on that screen or done this, and I'm just like, because we watch stuff probably 15 times in a row sometimes, right? So
Wow.
um but when you do that and when you excel at all the little things like that, we ended up going all the way to our conference tournament there, and
Yeah.
that's the National Junior College Athletic Association. So
Big
it's,
time, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the biggest. It's so the guys that play in that are guys that maybe don't qualify out of high school, don't have the grades to play at a 4 year school like a UCLA or your Texas Tech or
Mhm.
your any of those schools. So they play junior college, get their start of their degree going, and then they'll transfer after two
Yeah.
years into a Division One school. And you have tons of guys that go
Oh
that
yeah.
route and play in the
Oh yeah.
NBA.
Big time. Big time.
We have on my team on Howard College, we had the year. So he was leaving as I was getting in. We had Jake Crowder. He played there, and he played at. Then he went on to play. Where was it? With
Was
Coach
he
Buzz and
was he at Marquette?
NCAA. Marquette, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And now look at him. He's
Yeah.
what,
He's
10,
been,
15 years into
yeah.
the NBA,
In
right?
the forever. Yeah.
We have a ton of guys. We had 3 or 4 guys that I played within our conference that are still playing now.
Yeah.
But we we played. I don't know if you all remember the crazy guy Marshall Henderson.
No.
Um, for
What?
you
Why?
do.
Why do you say crazy?
Oh man, he was the guy who was like the crazy antics. So he played against them. We played against some South Plains, Howard College. We always played against each other. They won the league. They did amazing. He was the 3 point shooter that shot from like half at all the shots, but he was also the one that was like giving the finger to the crowd, like going up to the score box with the camera thing and just telling them like F off and like
What?
it's going, yeah, in the NCAA tournament. And just like they had a big upset, and then he was just going nuts, like just crazy. Yeah. So we play against those like guys like that, like guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
get like the different level. It's like
Yeah.
like 4 year, and then you get some of these like great player, but just like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, did decent there. Had a bunch of different offers. Probably the biggest one that I ended up having after that season was Wichita State, who the
Yep.
next year everybody knows how well that program's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Coach Greg there met him a bunch of times, came out, watched me, was great. But I decided to go to a bit of a smaller school because I wanted to make more of an impact, play as much as I can right away. And that was Morehead State in Kentucky, Division One school. Just had a guy graduated. Most of you probably know Kenneth Faried, so I was coming in, going to be filling that spot. The next year, Kenneth Faried obviously did 10 years. I think he's playing
Yeah.
in China now, but 10 years in the NBA, one of the all-time. He's the all-time leading rebounder, and ahead of me in the NCAA. So I'm
Oh, really?
like second or third on the list in rebounds per 40-minute game, because not everybody plays,
Yeah.
right? Like when I played my year and I finished fourth in the nation, I was playing 24 minutes a game, whereas the guy who won first was only half a rebound ahead of me, playing I think 31 minutes a game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
they do rebounds per 40 minutes is
yeah,
what
yeah.
they do. They'll average it out just to see. So Kenneth Faried's one of the only guys ahead of me at I think he's like at 17 point something, and I'm 17 point something else just under him. So
Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
came in, filled that role. Great school, great program, and yeah, there we were. That Division I basketball where I
Yeah.
wanted to be.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, like, but that's such a like. It's weird. Like, I'm happy you like
It
explained
was
the
a
whole
journey,
story.
man. It was a
Well,
journey. It was a
yeah, it's a
journey.
journey, but it's almost like you literally went like, backwards. Like you played and then you redshirted, and then you went from a redshirt to a community college or a junior college, and then you went from a junior college to like you literally went like in this like weird, and typically it's
Yeah,
like it's not that way at
it's
all.
opposite. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah, it's
guys find less success at the start, and then they come back to Canada.
yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
had
yeah.
less success in Canada, and then went to Division One.
Yeah, yeah, super interesting, like the way that works. But it's funny because like nowadays, and again, it's not that like you're that old, but realistically, you kind of are
Oh,
in a
I'm getting
sense that
up there,
like,
man.
well, yeah,
I got
I
the
know,
gray hairs and the
I know,
beard, man.
but I mean more so
Hopefully this
like
light's not.
how much it's changed like on the recruiting scale, like from a standpoint of like again, you obviously like you said when you were in high school, you did have some interest stuff like that, but like even just like schools like out east, you kind of didn't have any. Like I don't like it's changed quite a bit. Like if you
Oh,
were
it's
going through the
incredible.
same process now, I don't know that you would have not like people would have not known who you were. They would have been like, oh yeah, you're that guy we were talking to, or we knew about you, or
Oh, 100. It changed.
like
Yeah, it changed. It's changed
changed.
so much
It's changed.
with
Yeah,
the Andrew. I'd say the Andrew Wiggins year with Andrew Wiggins and those crazy dunk videos that they were doing
yeah,
in YouTube and
yeah.
everything. Like that
It's
was
changed, man.
the
Completely.
95s. It changed the whole landscape changed, and then now there's all the prep schools everywhere
Yeah,
too, and not
yeah,
just a couple of them. There's money in prep schools. Like if you're bringing
exactly.
a top recruit in, you're getting Nike deals, you're getting
Yeah,
Adidas deals. Coaches at these prep schools are getting paid two, three,
yeah,
$400,000 a
man.
year.
Yep.
That just wasn't a thing when I was growing up. When one of the other guys, well, some of the other guys that are playing pro still now, Jared Jackson, Keith O'Mara,
Yeah,
Jared's very similar to Daniel Saki that plays right,
yeah,
similar, just smaller guard game. Like, and you see how much success Saki had Division I offers, crushing it out there.
yeah,
Whereas Jared had got to a Canadian university, didn't have
yeah.
many Division I offers at all. Whereas nowadays, Jared would have been an all-star
Oh yeah,
in a Big Ten conference, like
for sure,
because
for
he
sure.
can play at that level and
Yeah,
he is as good or better than all of these guys. But for him and me, for example, we just didn't have that exposure that they have now.
exactly. It's
Um,
changed. It's
it's
completely changed.
unfortunate, but but at the same point in time, it is what it is, and it's like
Yeah,
you can't look back at it and say anything. And like if I could go back and have that now, 100%, oh yeah, I'd take it. But
yeah,
if I
of
could
course.
go back and have the same way I had it, I was like, you know what? I got to play at three universities. I got to see beautiful Vancouver. I got to live in crazy West Texas where guys are
Yeah.
have like this is that was just interrupt there quick. Like I'm in class, my first week of class, and there's guys walking around with 357 magnums in holsters on their belt loops,
Come
walking around
on,
the campus. And I'm
come
like
on.
looking at my teammates, I'm like,
They're
guys,
like,
like,
ah, it's nothing.
and he's like, oh, that's normal out here. And he's like, those are the guys you don't got to worry about. They're showing you the gun. You got to worry about the guns you can't see. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I call my mom and I'm like, mom, come get me help.
It's crazy, man. I remember
Like
the first
growing
time I
up in
saw someone
Winnipeg,
like with a
yeah,
gun, I was like, what? And like, yeah, same thing. They're like, nah, that person, they're not gonna, well, they're gonna pull their gun out. You know, they have it. They're not gonna pull their gun
yeah.
out. Like, I
I'm
was
just
like,
like, this is
but,
this is
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, it's
Where
wild,
I can
man.
walk into the Walmart and for $140, there's a sale this week on the pump action
Yeah,
shotgun, and
you
I'm
could just
just
buy
like,
it. You could
I
just go like, all right,
was
let's
like,
go.
I was here to get some Cheerios, man. Like, what's going on?
So yeah, you got
But
like you've gotten like your life's worth of
yeah, I got to
experience
see
through these
everything,
things.
right? Like,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
living in Kentucky too, the Kentucky Derby, seeing all
Yeah,
that, being out there
yeah,
for like homegrown Kentucky, but like like Southern love is real, man. They
yeah.
everybody down there is awesome.
Oh
So I
man,
got to see all of it. I got to experience so many things.
yeah,
Dating a girl even from my university that lived in Chicago. So
yeah,
getting
yeah,
to know Chicago when we for the 3 or 4 years that we dated. I got to experience a whole other country, whereas like the US is up north in Minneapolis, North Dakota,
Yeah.
close to where we are in Manitoba. It's very similar to
Yeah.
Canada, right? But the
Also
southern
different.
US is a completely different place, and not a place you're going to see as a tourist. Like, you're not
Yeah.
going to West Texas as a tourist. You're not going to middle central Kentucky and the Daniel Boone National Forest as a tourist, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a whole
Yeah.
different lifestyle.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was cool, and it was, yeah, something I wouldn't change.
That's cool, man. I love that. See, I love it. See, this is the perspective that's important to understand is like there's a journey in life, and you're gonna go to take the journey that you took, but being appreciative of that. I've heard people complain about stuff and you're like, no, like this is like, you have a unique story, man. Like just live with it. So I love hearing you say that. But continuing down this story, I mean, I remember when I first heard it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna be with the summer league with Chicago. And I was like, that's cool, that's awesome, right? And like, so I mean, like you got to go play in summer league.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, again, I know this was like you just finished having a successful season. I mean, at this point, you're getting a shot to like get in front of NBA people. You probably played with some pretty cool people, but what was it like? What was summer league like? Did you?
I mean,
I mean,
it
maybe
was
tell us a little
awesome.
bit
Yeah.
about like hearing about it. Like, did you know ahead of time that you were going to go to summer league, or did someone say, "Hey, we want you to"? Like, tell us about that the transition from
Yeah.
going from Morehead to the summer league.
Yeah, so my final semester of university at Morehead State, I graduated. So I did we had this all planned out. My student advisors, myself, my parents. I'd finished early graduation, and I'd
Yeah,
already started my master's program in December, in like the first semester of my final year, so my fifth year of
yeah,
school. So I graduated just a Bachelor of Arts with minor in business and a focus and commerce with that focus. And then I decided to start my master's program, Master's of Business Administration. So I started that in that final semester, finishing, and then towards the second semester, all the courses I took were online. So
okay,
I figured I could leave the university early. So I ended up leaving in beginning of April, university. So I wasn't even on campus. I was gone, and I was training out of Toronto and Hamilton.
okay,
Um, Early before I'd even like finished school. Like, basketball season was done. I'm still doing my classes online, and I was gone. I was out there training for 2 months, doing all the pre-draft work, getting ready for these NBA workouts, the
Mhm.
combines and stuff. Went into the I did the one combine. I didn't do the NBA combine, which is the one where they bring all the freshmen and all
Yeah,
the Nerlens Noels and Anthony Davises and the top of those guys. I did the Portsmouth Invitational, which is the combine for seniors, so guys who are in their fourth year. And then it's the exact same thing basically as the NBA combine. It's just not as televised. They have personnel from every NBA team out at that. You play in you do your vertical testing, you do all the drills and
yeah.
everything one day, and then the next 2 days you're playing games against each other. They fly you out and you're put up in a nice hotel, the whole spiel. Um, but so I did that, had some good success at that, got noticed. I was supposed to do workouts with a bunch of teams. There's like Charlotte was wanted to bring me out, the New York, the Knicks, the Bulls, Toronto, my agent Matt Slan, and Keith Kreider. He's out of Chicago, but they're partnered together. They got me all these workouts, and basically they were like, "Hey, be ready." So I was in Mississauga and Toronto training with Kyle Julius. He's GM of one of the CEBL teams now, I think the Vancouver Bandits.
Mhm.
But at the time, he was just doing personal training for high level athletes. And yeah, got out there, started training, working out with him at a high level. And then you never knew when a call was happening. Like, I had a call the morning one day, and then in the afternoon I'm down the road in Toronto working out with somebody, right? So I did a
Yeah,
couple
yeah, yeah.
workouts at Toronto. I was supposed to have one with Charlotte, but then I ended up as the same sort of thing. It was like one day I'm like 5 p.m., just finished a workout, get a call from my agent. He's like, "Hey, Chicago wants to know if you can get on like the 8 p.m. flight to Chicago for a workout in the next couple of days." And I'm like, yeah, sure. So like throw my stuff together in a bag, run to the airport, and I barely even got through because you're supposed to be there at the airport like 45 minutes before check-in if you don't have a boarding pass. And even though I wasn't checking a bag in or anything, I didn't have my boarding pass in because it was so quick. So I got there and I actually had to talk to a manager, and I'm like, hey guys, like I'm going to work out with an NBA team. Like I know I'm 40 minutes before. I have a Nexus pass. I can rip through security. Like, can you do? So the manager had to like, hey, if you get there late and whatever, he's like, we're fine. I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. I didn't pay for it, anything. I just got to make this flight. So they let me get through, got on the flight, and then the next day I'm working out with a bunch of guys with the Chicago Bulls, and that workout went extremely, extremely well, and they signed me for summer league right away off that workout.
Nice.
So I didn't end up going any other workouts, which in hindsight maybe hurt me, but who knows? It was, when you see that and you crush a workout with a bunch of NBA guys there, Derrick Rose shooting shots up in the background, and then the next day they're like, hey, we'd like you to come back and train with us and be here for summer league. You're like, yeah, I'm doing it, right?
Yeah, and you're like, let's go, right? Summer league, why not? Yeah, man, that's crazy. That must have just been like, obviously, like, you know, we know what we know, like back here in Manitoba, we're following you as best we can. Obviously your closer friends probably have more of an insight, but I just remember, you know, hearing and then like trying to follow and see what was going on and all that stuff. I was very excited for you, right? Like anytime a player from Manitoba is doing well, like people here, we're pretty supportive. Like we're like, yeah, we want them to do well, 100%. Right? And so I remember watching you, and then again getting, you know, we talked about your dad at the beginning as well, but your dad, you know, hey, let's be honest, your dad's like one of your biggest supporters.
100%.
He's out there, so anytime he would always be like, he'd give me the updates, like the, you know, under the table update.
He probably gave you the play-by-play.
Yeah, no, literally, like, so I'd be working with the league at Winnipeg Minor, and he'd call me for whatever, something to do with the league. Then he'd be like, you know, sometimes I would ask, sometimes you just tell me, right? So like, hey, what's going on with Chad? Like, what's the update? And he would always have
more the later, but no, he's 100% my best supporter, and I love it. Yeah, he loves it.
Of course, man. Right? How could you not love that, to have
and
someone
he's a city councilor here in East St. Paul, so we love talking, right? Just
absolutely. But like the one thing I remember, so like obviously I remember you went to Japan. Like I have a soft spot for Japan. I have like, you know, some Japanese friends and stuff like that. I actually got to interview Brooke Taves, you know, obviously who's out in Japan as well. Some Winnipeg connections. But
Taves coached me in out there the one
year.
For a little bit, for a couple months.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just like super cool, right? Like that connection. But I want to ask you, you had mentioned, I don't know if we were talking offline or before we were talking about your hip there. You had the shot kind of with the summer league. You obviously played in Japan, I think, after that, right? And then you got like opportunities later on to give it another shot, but you had the hip injury with the G League. So, I mean, what was it like? I mean, kind of flirting kind of in the NBA and like not like, I guess the question I'm trying to ask you is, do you, probably not based on what you told me, but how do you feel about like being so close and then like having some things, you know, like the hip or other opportunities? Do you have any sort of like almost, or are you just grateful for those opportunities?
Honestly, just the process and the whole experience is just something you can't trade or even it is the way I always say is it is what it is, and like it's going to be how it's going to be. It's like you can't control things that are out of your control. And I think that's helped me along the way with just on to the next thing, this, that, and the other, right? You can't worry about it. But I mean, it goes back to the thing you said earlier with YouTube and all these guys and just the stuff that's available to players now. I think had I had some of that, my process would have been, I would have had the right coaching for what I needed, the right play style, the right prep for what I needed at the right time. And I wouldn't have had to figure a lot of that out on my own. It would have been laid out in front of me in the path and figured it out. And then you just have to work hard at that point in time, which I've never had any problem doing. I think if it was a different, so maybe even like 7, 8 years later, I might have, I'd highly think, because I've played against all these NBA guys and lots of them here and there. And I think that had I had that all laid out for me, that I probably would still be playing or have played for several years.
For sure.
But And then obviously injuries aside and everything, you can't control any of that. But had that been the case, I think it would have been a different route for me. But at the same point in time, it's not something that I would have traded for anything. And like
for sure.
Playing with even when I was with OKC training there, like I'm training with when they have Hoodie Mello, Paul George, Russell Westbrook. I'm training in the gym with them for, I don't know, when did I get there? I got there and went out for a workout there. They love me. Same thing. Like I've always been really good with that. Whenever I go out to a team or like I crush it, I kill it. It's like, hey, we want you back. Do really well. Even when I join teams and like just play a couple of games in the CEBL here and there, like I'm always there. I'm always work my butt off and I always just do well. Right. So they brought me out and just like I said, training with those guys in the gym, 3 future Hall of Famers. And I'm working out next to them, getting reps and drills with them for 3 months. Right.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Right.
Yeah.
Obviously they're just people at the same point in time. And I'm just another guy getting reps in the gym, but you gotta look at it from that perspective as well. Like, hey, you're with the best of the best. Like there's no higher level than this anywhere in our known universe. Right.
For sure.
That's what I'll take that and I'll go with that and I'll just keep, like I said, keep working and keep going from there.
Yeah, man.
And that's what it is.
No, that's a great perspective. I figured you'd have that perspective, but I had to ask. I think, and I only asked that. Maybe it's not selfish because I mean, like other people probably want me to ask that question too, but I think it's more so because we don't know. Like I don't know what that's like, and most people don't, right? They don't know how it's like to be so close, and like you're in, like you said, with the elite of the elite, right? And you've played at these levels. Now, again, you've played in like high pro leagues and some other people who have played in the NBA. So like you are essentially. There's like this small percentage of all the people who play basketball and you're that like small percentage of elite people, right? Like that's just the way it is. And so for guys like me and people listening, we want to know like what it's like, you know? And so you've given us a nice kind of like picture of what that's like. And I think the thing that I appreciate the most is just your perspective on it, right? Like you're not sitting here being like, oh, like this, you're like, look, like I got a unique opportunity. And again, you can only control what you control. And I think that's like the best way to look at it. Right. And like, again, like, I mean, your only other option is to live in regret, and who the hell wants to do that? Like, oh, I regret this. Why would you regret it? It's unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. Yeah. Like think about how many people want, like, it's always that thing. It's like, if you want to play that game, I don't play this game either, but if you want to play that game, it goes on forever. It goes on forever, right? Unless you're like LeBron James, because as of right now, out of all the players that are actively playing, like he might be at the pinnacle. But that's like one guy, and every other player, like, well, if I could win that many championships, if I could win that many MVPs, if I could be that durable.
And you got to look at LeBron. LeBron spends $1.5 million on his body every $5.5 million on my body. I'd play till 52. Right?
Exactly.
You could say that, and then you can go on.
You can just do it forever, but you can do it with everything. Oh, you know how many times you've probably heard this all the time, and I always tell people to say this. They say, oh, if I was your height, I would do blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, you wouldn't. Because there's someone else saying that about you. If I was your height, no. You are who you are, man. I'm sorry. Like, you can't, like, just like...
Well, you're your height right now. Aren't you playing in the NHL? Like?
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I appreciate that perspective, man. So we're kind of wrapping up here. I do want to get, I have a few direct questions for you. So, like, one of them is this. What is your funniest basketball story?
Oh man, I gotta
that we can talk about on the podcast. It cannot be. Has to be like PG-13 at the.
I got 2 of them. I got a funny one and then just.
All right.
So my funniest one. I've actually said this in another podcast before. So I'm in the middle of practice, and sometimes during practice you got to go to the bathroom. This is when I'm at UBC, first year university, freshman, probably the first month or 2 of practices. But yeah, you gotta go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, take a poop, paper up the seat when you don't want to sit on a public restroom. So you don't want to sit down. Like you paper up the seat, right? Make your little cocoon or whatever you want to call it. So do my business, go back out to practice, and we're running on the court, running to the drill. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Hans he just blows his whistle. He just shuts practice down. He's like, yo, and everyone's like, what? He's like, yo, Chad, spin around, and I spin around, and there's like a thing of toilet paper like a foot long hanging out of my shorts. And he's like, what? He's like, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, what? And I'm like a freshman.
Oh, yeah, of
Everybody
course.
starts dying laughing.
Oh,
And
because you're a freshman too. It makes it like
yeah.
even worse, you know? You're
And
like, look, look,
he's like, we're done for the day. Just shut down practice.
for
And
real? Just canceled.
we're
Done.
done. Yeah, we're done. That was pretty funny.
Oh,
I guess my next one would be this is probably my third week in Oklahoma City with the Thunder, and we're training out of the Thunder practice facility, and like I'd been in there like every day, like for the last 3 weeks, nothing. And but this is when some of the like getting early work in. This is when all the NBA guys, like the teams actually like getting in, coming back in. I think it's got to be the start of August now. Like I was there at the end of July. This is the start of August. All the players got to report in, start training, getting ready. Or start of September, one of the two.
yeah.
And then so Russell Westbrook gets there, and I had no idea he was there. He had just come back, and so I stroll into the gym at like 9 a.m, getting taped, sit down on one of the physio tables. There's like 5 or 6 tables there. Sit down on one of the physio tables, getting taped, like have my earpods, or not even my AirPods at the time. We had the cord back then, right?
Yeah.
Put my corded headphones in. I'm just jamming, chilling. Don't even know what I'm listening to. Probably Nickelback. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I'm shoes beside me and I'm getting taped, and then Russ like leans over and he's like, "Yo," and I didn't know who it was, and he's like, "Yo," and I'm like, take the headphones, like, "Oh, hey, what's good, man? Nice to meet you. What's going on?" And he's like, "Yo, I'm good, but we got a problem." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Why do we got a problem?" I was like, "What? What's going on?" And I'm not trying to be like the soft guy. I'm like, "Yeah, what's up? Like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Why are you wearing those damn shoes in my gym?" And I look down and I'm like, "I have KD shoes. Those are the shoes I wear." So I'm wearing KDs, and he's like, "Yo, why are you wearing those damn shoes in my gym?" He's like, "We don't wear those in here." And I'm like, I
wow.
was like, "Man, these are the shoes I wear. Like, I'm comfortable. I wear these." And he's like, "Bro," he's like, "You're not practicing in my gym with those shoes on." And I'm like, do I go? Do I just feel like, I'm like, what do I say to this? I'm like, this is Russell Westbrook, peak Russell Westbrook, triple double in his gym at
Yeah.
OKC. He runs a team. He stops
Yeah.
practice. He starts like that's. I was like, "You got to get me some new shoes then, man. This is all I got." He's like, he gets up, stops his treatment, goes, gets the equipment manager, and he's like, "Yo, get this man some shoes that aren't damn KDs," and a bunch of other expletives along the way. And I'm like, oh, this is like right after KD had left to go get his championship with Golden State, like the same year. And I'm like, and they brought Melo and they brought Paul George and everybody. And I was like, okay, man, like I knew there was beef there. I didn't know it was this real though.
Yeah, like no shoes.
So yeah, they takes the shoes, and I was like, brings me like 4 pairs of other shoes, like brought me some Kobe's, like they brought me a whole assortment. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna take my haul of
You're like, "I'll take all of them, please."
I'm fine with that. And I gave him my shoes, and then he threw them away, I think.
Wow.
Or they threw them in the garbage and gave me 4 pairs. And I was just like,
wow.
Okay.
That's so
right?
crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. And it's funny because it's like it gives you a good insight onto how much, and this is why people want to hear these stories, man. That gives you insight onto how, like, we know how much influence they have. But like, come on, man.
Crazy,
like, it's just
right?
like, take your shoes off. You're like, what? Like, my gym, blah blah blah. And like, this is
I
remember this is peak Russell. Like, I know, like, he was, he
and
stayed,
then right after that,
everyone loved him.
And then after the whole incident, he's like, "Oh yeah, we get mad." Yeah, we're chilled. We weren't boys, but we were chilled.
He was cool.
I was better friends with Paul George than probably most of those guys in that team. We hung out a little bit.
That's cool. That's cool, man. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it was funny though. I was just like, okay.
All right, so I have like a bunch of other questions, but we got to wrap this thing up, man. Like, we can go on. I think we're pushing an hour, if not a little bit more.
I'm like my dad. I can talk forever.
I love it though.
We'll have to do a follow-up episode, maybe.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. We might have to do
that. We'll do a part 2.
There we go. So, okay, so we'll wrap this one here. I do want to ask one last question though. I always love to part with some advice for people listening, and typically it's focused around the people who would like to be what you are, right? So imagine for the players, I like to paint it this way. Imagine, I don't know, back when you were playing provincial team, did they have that meet the team Manitoba thing? Did they do that back then?
Yeah. They did. Yeah. They did.
So you come
and people came out, asked questions.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll bring speakers, sometimes whatever. So imagine they bring Chad out and like, hey, Chad, you're here. You have all these players in front of you that that love. I bet you most of them would love to tell a story about how they were hanging out in the gym or had Russell Westbrook telling them what to do, or going to NBA Summer League, or playing Division I basketball, right? So question is essentially like, if you were standing in front of this group of young athletes, what would you tell them about piece of advice that you would give to those young players who kind of see you as someone they would love to be, someone you're a role model to them, and they're like, Chad, I want to play. What are some advice you can give me? What would you tell them?
Control what you can control. I know it's pretty standard advice, but we touched on it earlier. Just control what you can control, and do your best at controlling that, and doing your best at what you can do your best at. Don't worry about anything that you can't control. Everything else. Are you going to make a team? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Just do what you do, and do it to the best of your ability, and just focus on what you can do. Don't focus on anything else. And then one other piece would be, make your free throws, practice your free throws, because seriously, that's the difference between winning and losing.
True.
Probably 50% of the games that I've played in my career, it's come down to free throws. True. Make your free throws, practice your free throws. If you think you shot enough, shoot more. Coming from the guy that shoots 65% a game, so
so you're like, I got to get these up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Work. Seriously, work on your free throws. They're so important. They could bring you up from scoring 8 points a game to 11 points a game, just like that, right?
It's true. That is so true. Yeah. They say they're free for a reason, right?
But they're not.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You got to put in the hours for
exactly.
Free, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. This is true.
Put in the time on your free throws. Yeah.
No, that's good, man. That's good. I appreciate you. I wish you luck. I mean, we didn't even ask, like, what's going on next? You have the obviously you said your hip was bothering you a little bit. It's rested up now. What's next on the horizon?
Feeling good. So I'm part of the player pool of Team Canada. There's a pool of 32 guys. All the majority of the NBA guys. There's some of the guys that aren't part of it. They won't play till the Olympics, but I'm signed with the team until after the 2024 Paris Olympics. So I'm part of that pool. And then they've cut it down to, minus the NBA guys, they've cut it down to 24 guys, and they'll bring it down. That's just the long roster. And then they'll bring 16 guys out to Edmonton for the World Cup qualifiers. We play Venezuela, and then we play Panama on the November 10th and 13th. So after that, if you make that team, play those games. And then following that, I'm going to play, hopefully, I think they'll have me again. I did really well with them last year, and it was a new experience. But the CBL, the champion of the CBL, plays in Basketball Champions League for North and South America. So it's the yeah. So I'll hopefully play with the Hamilton Honey Badgers. We'll be representing Canada, and because Canada is in its essentially off season compared to most 90% of the leagues around the world, we don't have a full roster of guys that are on the Hamilton team to compete in the Champions League. So they field as many guys as they can from Hamilton, and then the rest of them come from guys that play in the CBL during the season as well. And then so we'll play in Champions League, and Champions League is the winner of each domestic league in North and South America. They play against each other, and then they go on to play in the Intercontinental Cup. So the winner of all the leagues in Europe, the winner of the leagues in Africa, the winner of the leagues in Asia, the winner of the NBA G League, because the NBA doesn't send a team. They'll play against each other in the Intercontinental Cup, which is the following year. So,
okay, nice.
So I was with Edmonton last year, and that's the plan. There's four to five windows that you play. You play 2 games each time, and those will happen over December to March, and then the playoffs in April.
Nice. And then are you going to potentially play CEBL next spring,
Yeah.
summer?
Yeah, I'll 100% play next year. Where yet I'm not sure. Had a great experience in Ottawa last year, and it was awesome. Loved the coach, loved the city, loved the team, loved everything. But Calgary's getting a team, and that's a little closer to home out west. Got a lot of family and friends in this area, so.
Yep.
So I think it'll be one of the two, unless Winnipeg gets a team one of these days.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping for that. So that's
I think it's in the works too. So
this is the perfect market for it, man. We're dying for it. We're dying.
We need it too. And then just touching on the CBL and Mike Morelli, the commissioner, he's become a good friend of mine since I've been around the league since day one in 2019. And what they've done is just phenomenal. Mike and his whole team, and just partnered with Canada Basketball, just everything. They need a couple more teams, like you said, and they're but I think there's 10 guys this year that are signed on NBA teams from that played in the CBL this last summer. 10 guys. This goes back to the opportunities, all the young guys and everything nowadays. It's like, I'm 31 now and I'm still playing and really enjoying it. But for these people, especially the youth sports kids that can play in the league during a regular season, it's a phenomenal opportunity. It's amazing. Yeah. So they
killed it. I love that league, man. They've done it. They've done it right since the start, man. Everything they've done is phenomenal. And I think I was so happy to see them pull off having some league activity through the pandemic, because that's like your litmus test. If you fall apart there, it's pretty much done. And they 100%. Pushed through it, and I was like, yes, they did something, and I was like, that's all that matters. You just got to stay active. And now it's like, man, the potential is massive.
The biggest pro league of any sport in Canada. It's across the country from Vancouver to St. John's. I think they're going to add. They want to add, I think, Halifax, Winnipeg, Calgary's coming in, Quebec. You get all these teams.
And we got the talent, man. We got the talent.
The basketball, the talent, the level of basketball is the highest, and it's the most exciting and the highest in any league, besides your Euro challenge leagues or something, playoffs. Besides international competitions this, and then the NBA is just it's really close basketball, right?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You obviously you're missing a couple LeBrons and Giannis, but for the most part, you have guys that are doing well in the CBL and excelling there, and then going and doing well in the NBA, right? Xavier Moon, Jalen Harris last year playing in the CBL. These guys are signing contracts from playing here.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
It's an unbelievable league. I'm a big supporter, and I love the Elam ending, man. I love the Elam.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's unreal,
I got one of them this year.
It's so cool, man.
How did I get my Elam ending? Free throws.
The free throw.
two free throws to win the game, man.
There we go. We'll end with that, because that is a very appropriate way to end, considering your advice. I appreciate you, Chad. It was good, man. I would love to see you play on a Winnipeg team. So let's hope for that.
That's the plan. At some point in time, that's the plan.
Absolutely. So appreciate you, man. Hope that hip's feeling good, and
we're good. We're good to go.
And hoping to see you in Edmonton, man. I won't be there, but I'm obviously a very big supporter of Canada basketball. So
appreciate it. Heck yeah.
All right, brother. Okay, take care.
All right, thank you. Take care.
All right, peace. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.